just back. We are there. So we just came back from the monastery. So we have Viradhammo Siri, Venerable Siri Medo, and Nirasso at the end there. So that's 2/3 of the monastery, 3/4 of the monastery. So back to meditation. The word like cessation, nirodha, it's a pretty dry word, isn't it? It sounds like death, or it's like this. It doesn't have much oomph in it. But what's the result of doing that? So if you contemplate, like if someone has a habit of resentment, and we've all been injured by life. People have said and done things which have been hurtful. And then unfortunately, we've done it too, in lesser or minor ways. So resentment is a natural kind of memory pattern that people can suffer from. So let's say if someone had, unfortunately, gotten caught in habits of resentment for until they were 40, say, and then they came across a kind of more contemplative, reflective life, and they're going to see, ooh, that's a thought, that's an emotion that runs my mind, and they begin to take kind of responsibility for the resentment, and then they go on retreats and they meditate, and the resentment comes up a lot, maybe even more than they knew. They weren't even aware of it. So when they start meditation, maybe it seems to get worse, coming up into the mind, and but they trust in awareness. And they trust in the insight into change, that this is a memory, it comes and goes, it arises and ceases. They trust in that. So the trust now is not in the believing the sense of self and the history of the sense of self that arises with memory. Their trust is in knowing that as an object. So they take awareness as the basis of trust. And then they work it out. Maybe takes a while. I won't want to say how long, but disappointingly long for most of us. But the habit gets less, and we all think that, right? Gets less and less and less and less. And one day you notice there's no resentment in the mind. The mind's not doing that. It's not preoccupied with sense of self and sense of resentment. And that's joyous, isn't it? That's a really joyful state of mind. And we don't portray it that way, I think, because then people start to look for joy as an experience, as opposed to non-joy, whatever non-joy might be. But you think about it, with the result of the mind being free from fear, that's great. It's absolutely free from social anxiety. It's absolutely great. Free from endless judging of others and judging of oneself. Free from, we all have a list, right? And you can see the result is joyous. And not what? Because I sought out joy as an experience, like going to a really good restaurant or something like that. No, it's different. It's because when the mind's not preoccupied with the sense of self, its nature is open and attentive and joyous, isn't it? Think about that. So it's a very optimistic teaching in that sense, that the human possibility is very, very beautiful if we can just get through some of these rough bits that we have to suffer from. And so we use, like in Theravada Buddhism, we use via negativa. We use the neti way. It's not this, it's not this. We use language like non-aversion, non-becoming, non-anticipation. I use those non-words a lot, so that one isn't just seeking the opposites. Sort of like if you notice anticipation and you're trying to get rid of it or something, I just what does non-anticipation? So although that's the opposite word, the result it has on my mind is I notice anticipation as an object. I'm no longer the subject of that. And each time I notice that as an object in awareness, I'm trusting in awareness. to some extent, maybe not for long, but then I kind of keep reminding myself, and this is the thing that Ajahn Sumedho's been giving us a lot the last year since he's been in Amaravati, is trust and awareness. Obviously trust in morality, trust in TD Bank as opposed to, they'll tell you which bank to trust in. we had a lot of bank problems and he sorted it out for us. So there will be trust, right? Those kind of will do things, but like as a spiritual being and so on. So that, especially in a place like this where it's not, where as we were saying, it's a place of trust. We can, we're friends with each other, and so if something negative comes up, it's fine. You can go for it, as they say in New Zealand, and so then you could see the trust is some aspect of love in that grander sense, not love as passion, or not even love as liking, more love as inclusion and acceptance. Thought discriminates and chops up and makes a difference, which we need as well. So then, with that same kind of reasoning, that you could see that awareness is also loving kindness in a bigger sense. So I just give the same example of fear because I only have one life, fortunately. I do things like that. So with the fear as condition, there had to be some sense of acceptance, allowing it to be there, and that's what I think the loving kindness component of awareness is. But loving kindness maybe sounds too big, so then we use words like acceptance, but then not resignation, and that's just language. Language has its challenges. So if in terms of causes and conditions, what are the causes and conditions that I can implement right now that will lessen suffering in the future? And what will be the causes and conditions which will increase suffering in the future? I can see that no matter what I'm doing, no matter what I'm experiencing. And so trusting in awareness and understanding the profundity of awareness, that as a refuge and how it can be with things. And then so to trust in awareness, what do we need to do? Well, we put in Dharma. So you trusting in awareness is kind of like Buddhang Saranam Gacchami. I take refuge in the Buddha, not as person, but as the principle of awakened mind. And then what can I put into that? Well, I can put Dharma. And what is Dharma? It's the way things are, and how are things, they change. And you can exercise that refuge in Buddha and refuge in Dharma anytime. You can listen to the blue jays making their difficult sounds. They're beautiful birds, aren't they? Just the voice, it's the voice. Disappointing voice. Anyway, that's my suffering. You can, I'm a birder, by the way. So you can listen to that squawking sound of a blue jay and you say, oh, why do you guys get a new voice or something? But seriously, you can take it on as an exercise and say, what is the changing nature of sound? And then to do that, you cannot preoccupy yourself with the object, and yet you know the object. Because you're not lost in it, but you know it. And that sense, that exercise around the neutral is very, very skillful, because you build up the causes and conditions for the future to do the same exercise around something like resentment. Right? So the resentment comes up. You say, oh, what's the resentment feels this way, and what's the changing nature of resentment? And you see that the thought wants to come up, or the feeling wants to come up. It comes and goes, and you are the witness, and you know and you understand. I think all of us have done that a lot. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. And that's where you get the confidence, don't you? You get, yeah, this does work. Actually, this really does work. It is effective. And then, like say the same person, maybe 10 years after starting the practice, they really, without being facetious, they say, bring it on, resentment. If it's going to come out, great, because this will be the idea of liberation. They'll be liberated from consciousness because this is just to happen. And I think we all see that. I certainly saw that in the patterns of fear I experienced, many years down the road when I was surprised by. I usually got surprised by funerals like 200 sad people. I found, oh gosh, how can I say anything into this? I was finding that very, very difficult. So the fear would come up. And I say, okay, great, bring it on, let's have it. Because I knew it's liberation. I know it's liberation of fear. So there's no corner in the mind that I'm not going to allow to come up in that way. So the question I always ask folk is like, what do you trust in? When push comes to shove, when a resentment comes up, or you trust in self-judgment, which is more thought? Do you trust in believing in the narrative and that? Now that's not the same as saying to someone, you should forgive. That's a command which oftentimes isn't appropriate at all. The person isn't, you're not ready for that, they're not ready for that. It's not a command, it's a reflection. It's a reflection that resentment is like this. And people do get that mixed up, don't they? Where they mix up what a kind of psychological imperative command kind of thing is, right? You must forgive. Buddhism says you must forgive or you're going to drop into hell. And then you feel guilty about feeling resentful. It's terribly complicated. But that's another thought, another self-thought, another analysis, another judgment, whereas awareness is not a thought. So that's what I'm sort of trying to encourage, is just like, this is like this, open the mind, it feels like this. And if you work with discomforts and little pains, then those doable things become factors for building that kind of paramita, or that virtuous quality. And the skill, it's a skill, isn't it? Yeah, so see the difference between idealism, that I shouldn't be resentful or should forgive, and the reality of resentment. So someone got really hurt by life, the resentments or the lack of forgiveness might take a long, long time, because it's so powerful and might even be able to approach it. But once you get your foot in the door, and you've got a way of kind of being with it. These are things to persuade oneself into rather than demands that one should do. And that's the idea of reflection. Okay, let's do some meditation. So stretch your legs a bit if you want, and we'll sit for 45 minutes. Oh, today is, do we do interviews today? After this?
Yes. I'm going to turn it over to Evelyn to tell you.
Yes,
Yes,
3 o'clock.
3 o'clock.
And Nisanka and I will set up the chairs
And that'll be
and show
outside.
you. It'll be outside.
And there's,
Should there be more
for one,
chairs?
for Viradhammo series, for
What?
2 of us. Yeah,
Okay. So 3.
all right. And the list is there.
Where the willow shed is.
All right. After this. Okay. You're the master of air?
Not necessarily, I was just asked.
No, this is much appreciated.
Yeah, sometimes the people under the fan also don't like it, so.
This is
Okay,
I'm okay.
There
okay.
you go, you're under the fan, so you call the shot. All right, let's meditate. We're adjusting the fans, everyone. Keep you informed of what we're doing. So let's do some meditation. So if you take that theme, trusting in awareness, and you just listen to sound, and trusting awareness is not the same as looking for a sound. That's not trusting in awareness. That's trusting in looking for something. So awareness is the knowing of this experience right now. Trust in awareness. So it's non-becoming. You're not trying to get some experience by being mindful. It's just being aware. And it's not resisting, trying to get rid of something by focusing on something else. It's just being aware. So trusting in that, which is a kind of contentment. And then that sense of metta or kindness, that's sort of like welcoming this moment, allowing it to be just what it is. And then sustaining that attitude. So one way of looking at samadhi is to establish that attitude and then sustain that for whatever period of time you can. And how might you do that? Well, what you'll see is that the reason that, you don't, the habit of mind is to not trust awareness, is like some kind of discontent. And then if you notice discontent as an object, physical pain or whatever, then you're trusting in awareness. So choose the way of meditation you prefer. And then cultivate this trusting in awareness, breath by breath or through the body, whatever. And then when you notice thinking preoccupies your attention, can you return to trusting in awareness rather than trying to get rid of thought or just reinvesting energy into another thought?